Above the metropolis, which was completely built up with skyscrapers, a plane flew in the sky. A considerable number of people hurried about their business, creating a lively and fussy atmosphere around. Among them was the main character named Shu Van, who had just arrived in this city. In fact, this guy was an unusual person because he was an outstanding veteran. It consists in the most secret and stronger combat detachment of the country. Z called a squad of a snow wolf. He had to fight against tigers and wolves, and even destroy the walls of the country Me. In the detachment, our hero performed tasks with 100% success, so they gave him the code name the Snow Wolf. However, 3 days ago, during the mission, someone set up Shu Wang, which led to serious consequences and put him in a dangerous position. Unfortunately, the guy was late and could not save the hostages, whom someone brutally killed. In fact, now he had to celebrate the victory with his comrades and not go to the airport. In any case, our hero was about to find the one who substituted him so much, and it would be better for this person to be dead. At that moment, he passed next to the girl who asked for help because some man stuck to her. The stranger was very scared and shouted that she was robbed in the middle of a white day, desperately trying to break free and attract the attention of passers-by, but no one was in a hurry to come to her aid. In the end, the main character drew attention to this situation and quickly appreciated the situation, but he decided not to intervene and simply went further on his business, although the girl continued to ask for help. Still, a man was able to tear out a bag from the hands of his victim and now shouted that Zhu Wang would leave the road. The guy did not like this at all, so he turned around and looked at the bandit with a cold gaze. Our hero obeyed him, which is why the man noticed that the young man was smarter than he seemed. Suddenly, behind the guy's back, there was some kind of stranger who asked to miss her. It turned out that she was not going to stand aside and decided to teach a lesson to a man who decided to offend her defenseless sacrifice. The main character looked at this girl with admiration and noticed that she was very strong. He looked so much on the beauty that he could not withstand, because of which he had blood from his nose. The thief could not withstand such a strong blow, so now he was lying on the ground and coughing quietly from pain. Bai Fei Fei, CEO of Baisha Corporation, was unhappy that the man dared to steal right under her nose. In the end, she handed her bag to her mistress and asked the young lady to be careful with such men. The savior also added that the men were still those scoundrels. Further, the general director went to his convertible, who was already waiting for her near the airport. Sit behind the wheel, the girl saw that our hero was staring at her from the crowd. She was completely unhappy that the guy ignored such theft and considered him a useless man. In turn, our hero could not understand why the stranger looked at him so intently. The young man watched how the girl quickly left the other way and headed for her car. At that moment, he took out some documents from his jacket pocket and continued to think about this girl. It turned out that the main character managed to steal her passport, and now he thought that she was quite interesting. Shu Van was sure that such a woman would definitely suit him. The strongest soldier of the country Z. The guy was so immersed in his thought that he did not notice that Bai Fei Fei herself had already appeared behind him. In the end, our hero decided to hide the wallet so that the girl would not notice the loss. After some time, Su Wang wandered the streets of the city and tried to find the place he needed. Our hero had a small sheet with him, on which it was written that he needed to find Nandao 108, where there was a room 307. In the end, Sui Van still managed to find the hostel he needed. Before entering the territory of this building, the main character fell a little into his thoughts. Shu Van remembered that the old man asked the guy to take care of his daughter if he still did not return. The young man was not going to just do this service, so he noticed that the girl was only 4 years younger than him, so he wanted to take her in as wives. Lao immediately refused to give his daughter because she did not like the main character. After these events, someone killed the old man, whom our hero found and now asked his partner to say who did it. But before his death, his father only thought that his daughter should be safe, so once again asked Shuwana to take care of Yan Pan. The old man gathered all his last forces and squeezed it strongly in the hand of the protagonist to accurately convince him to fulfill his last request. When the guy opened the gate, he was immediately met by screams that the room 307 did not pay for services for 3 months in a row, so she was threatened to turn off the electricity. The hostess continued to scream that this resident could definitely not be further hidden if she does not pay for rent. A few minutes later, the main character met her on the landing, and the hostess said that the debtor would definitely bald if she continued to strive so much. Shu Van could not understand why the daughter of Lao now lives in a similar place and streaming, despite the fact that he could not afford water and electricity. Then, the main character climbed the desired floor and tapped the 307 room. The guy immediately met the daughter of Lao Nao, who just came out of the shower, shrouded in a cloud of steam, with drops of water flowing down her skin. Shu Van did not expect to see such a beauty at all, so for a few seconds he forgot why he came here. The girl did not suspect anything at all, so she just suggested that our hero was here to rent a room. In fact, she did not want to give the guy to leave because she realized that in any case she needed to get a little money to pay the hostess. She quickly picked up Shu Van so that he certainly could not leave, and decided to show him the room. The guy accidentally tried to explain that she misunderstood him, but forgot everything when he saw that he was touched to the beautiful body of the beauty. The girl said that there were 2 rooms, 1 living room, and even allowed the main character to take the main bedroom. Finally, Shu Van was able to recover and said that his things were still outside. The daughter of Lao Nao did not wait long, and quickly ran to bring the young man's suitcase. The main character saw that she was definitely not in strength, so he asked her not to strain so. In the end, the girl decided not to ceremony. Putting the suitcase on the floor, just pushed it with his foot. Shu Van only continued to stand still and watched his suitcase crashing into the bed with all his might. Then the daughter of Lao Nao thanked the guy for coming and said that he could pay for rent tomorrow. The main character finally tried to explain that he had traveled here, and not for this purpose, but did not finish again. The girl was not going to listen to any excuses, just slammed the door behind her. In the end, Shu Van simply reconciled with the situation and decided that it was already unimportant. The young man still promised Lao Nao to find a traitor who killed him, and his daughter would take care of him. Very soon she became night, and the main character rested in her room after a heavy and long day. Even in a dream, Shu Van could not forget about the beautiful body of the girl, which he saw a couple of hours ago. Suddenly, through a dream, our hero heard some strange sound in his room. Since the guy was a soldier and had an excellent reaction, this immediately made him wake up. It turned out that he was really in a room in some soldier who praised the snow wolf, because few are able to find his presence. Odin Sui Van still reacted to someone else's presence too late. Finally waking up, the young man is the main character that Tao Ba Jiesen stood in front of him. The soldier was immediately delighted, because he did not expect that even after the resignation, his legendary personality would be known. Shu Van was surprised that he had already been found, although he only arrived at this place, and asked Tao Ba Jiesen to tell about the traitor. A man who rushed here laughed with how brave our hero was. He stated that the guy could not even compare with the person who sent him here, and was sure that to kill a retired veteran too simple for him. The mercenary did not wait anymore and decided to pull out the blade right now to deal with our hero. The murder of the snow wolf was a truly great honor for Tao Ba Jiesen, so he did not want to hesitate at all. The main goal of this murder was that after the death of the protagonist, it was this mercenary that will become the number of 1 in the country Z. The next second, several death blows were heard in the room, which indicated that the battle began. After a few seconds, a broken mercenary was lying on the floor and could not believe that Shu Van was able to devote him in such a short time. Meanwhile, the guy explained that he recognized Tao Ba Jiesen not because of his reputation, but because of the scar, which would so amusingly fly out on his face. Our hero believed that this scar really looked strange, so he decided to help his uninvited guest. He made another incision on the crippled face of Tao Ba Jiesen, who could not resist this in any way. After that, Shu Van decided to ask what exactly the boss needs this mercenary from him. In turn, the soldier was very upset because his face was once again injured. From the showdowns with Tao Ba Zhe, the protagonist distracted the frightened voice of Yan Pan, who also met someone unfamiliar in the room. The young man threw the mercenary and instantly ran into the living room to check if Yan Pan was in order. The picture that the guy found in the room greatly surprised him, since he did not expect to see something like that. It turned out that the second uninvited guest with foam at the mouth lay on the floor already unconscious. Yan Pan, who was just making a fabric mask with a pattern, explained that she was fine, and this guy entered and fainted when he saw her. Shu Van was also a little scared, but explained that he had heard the noise, so he came to check his neighbor. The girl decided to remove herself a mask, and once again confirmed that she was in perfect order. She sat down at her workplace and asked our hero to help her be removed here because she tried to stream. The main character did not object and simply dragged the second mercenary by the leg. Meanwhile, the audience in the chat greeted the streamers and noticed that for some reason she was late. They also noticed the protagonist, who was now called a handsome man and a hot guy, interested in the girl who he is. On the other side of the screen, this broadcast was watched by a villain who had been looking for a snow wolf for a long time, and finally, he managed to find him. The man immediately thought that Shu Van was meeting with his daughter on Lanji, because they lived in the same house. At first, this villain was going to destroy the pride of our hero, like a snow wolf, and then deal with the detachment itself, left without his leader. Meanwhile, events are transferred to the office, where the CEO was Bai Fei Fei. The girl was unhappy that no one still could find a thief who stole her wallet. Her employees said that they had already turned to where it should and everything would be decided within 2 days. Bai Fei Fei was very angry with this shameless thief and was about to kill him if she saw it again. Another day passed and our hero also arrived at the main office of Beishi Corporation. A new mission came for the Snow Wolf, namely, to deal with Bai Fei Fei in 3 months. Shu Van could not understand what kind of mission it was because there was no concrete wording, so he could both kill, abduct, or win over it. Suddenly, an incoming call entered the phone, interrupting his thoughts and forcing him to be alert. It turned out that it was just Uncle Lee, who asked if the guy had a problem with a new mission. Our hero confirmed that so far everything was fine, because he did not even begin to fulfill his task. His comrade was very surprised at this and asked the soldier to hurry a little, hinting that they had almost no time for questions, and the situation required immediate actions. The man also warned our hero that Bai Fei Fei is very important, so one must protect her. I also emphasize Uncle Lee that if the young man can marry her in 3 months, he will be able to completely atone for his guilt. The young man was shocked when he heard that it was in this way that we also returned to the squad of the Snow Wolf. Shu Wang asked if he heard the right thing that he had to marry to restore his reputation. The commander explained that Bai Fei Fei knows some super secret information, so they should protect her at any cost, and reassured the guy with the fact that he had already discussed all this with her father. Uncle Lee happily confirmed that he was madly happy and with all his hands and feet for this wedding with his daughter. The main character was very angry because it was a very important point, but no one discussed all the aspects of this case with him. The young man was afraid that his goal could be terrible, because then he would be completely devastated. The military man had already held in his hands the dossier of this girl and asked Shu Van not to worry, because they had met her before. Uncle explained that he specially tuned that robber at the airport so that our hero helped the stranger right in front of Bai Fei Fei. He was sure that the heroic eye act of Shu Van had to delight the girl and he easily won her heart. At that moment, the guy began to compare all these facts and realized that everything went completely wrong. He suddenly remembered everything and began to hastily rummage in the pockets of his jacket, trying to find what is so important for him now. The protagonist once again carefully read the documents and realized that it was the same Bai Fei. Shu Van immediately panicked, because if he knew about his mission before, he would never ignore. The robbery would not steal the wallet and the ID card of this girl. In the end, our hero asked to send another guy instead of him, because now, most likely, Bai Fei Fei hates him. In addition to the nennishness, the girl could and was looking for Shu Van to teach him for this act. Uncle Lee ordered the guy to shut up and emphasized that if he still wants to return to the detachment, he must certainly fulfill this mission. The commander no longer began to persuade the protagonist and simply wished him good luck with this task. Shu Van was upset due to the fact that no one was going to listen to him at all, and now he thought how to fulfill this mission. In the end, the young man decided to tell that 2 mercenaries came after him yesterday, and he suspected that they were sent by the best group of killers called Bon Bon. He asked his uncle to find out how they could find him so quickly, because this could be connected with that traitor. The commander agreed to deal with this and warned our hero that his mission was not entirely official. It was for this reason that Uncle asked the protagonist not to draw his comrades into it. The man said that he already needed to go and hung up, and our hero did not have time to say anything, although he had not yet finished this conversation. Meanwhile, the father was already talking with Bai Fei Fei, who in no case was going to marry some stranger Shu Van. Bai San Hai asked to listen to him because this guy was not just an ordinary person, but was a real veteran who served in the Snow Wolf detachment. The girl for a few seconds and thought and looked at her father with a very severe look. In the end, she got up from her seat and asked her father for now to stay in her office, and she went about her business. Bai San Kai begged his daughter not to leave because Sui Van himself had to go here very soon. The girl did not want to listen to all this, so she slammed the door abruptly, and her father was upset, because he did all this just for the good of his daughter. He understood that Bai Fei Fei is extraordinary, but he believed that the guy was even more unusual, so it was the girl who did not reach him. At the same time, Shu Van walked along the street and studied the information that the girl, the head of the Beishi Corporation, turned the company from the insolvent into a better kind in 3 years. The profit of her company shocked everyone, and the Bei Fei Fei itself recognized the strongest woman in the city of Nantao City, which is able to literally create a miracle. I worried our hero for the fact that if he marries such a woman, then her pressure would just kill him. But at the same time, the guy believed that she was so beautiful, so he thought that if she became his wife, then everything would not be so bad. At that moment, he finally entered the office building and immediately hit the reception of Beishi Corporation. Our hero immediately showed the documents of the general director and said that he needed to find this girl. The administrator with a polite smile asked whether Shu Wang was scheduled. The main character decided not to ceremony and directly stated him that he was the future husband of the general director. The girl asked Shu Wana not to joke like that because everyone knew that Miss had no one. Just at the same moment, Bai Fei Fei, the escort of her assistant and guards, came out of the elevator. She immediately noticed that at the reception of the office there was some unfamiliar young man. The main character waved the documents of the general director and emphasized that he was not joking, that they were really very close. The girl noticed this and could not understand how this guy had her ID card. In the end, she made herself felt and asked who Sui Van called his future wife. The guy did not expect at all that all his plans would open so quickly. The protagonist turned around and saw that the same Bai Fei Fei on his face, which could already be seen irritation, she ordered to grab Sui Van, explaining that this guy first stole her wallet and now brazenly dissolves untruthful rumors. The protection of the general director immediately surrounded our hero, not giving him a chance to escape. In turn, the guy was not at all scared and asked if the guards really think that they could grab him. In the situation, the girl's father finally interfered with a comma, who ordered Fei Fei to stop herself so. The man tried to take his breath and explained that our hero was the future husband he spoke of. Everyone around could not believe that what the guy said was still true. Employees did not understand why the general director chose such a mediocre person in the life satellites. Even the guards noticed not an attractive face, sloppy hair, a strange pose, and a bad taste of our hero. Meanwhile, Bai Sanhai apologized to Shu Van and asked to take care of his daughter. The man was sure that in fact, Bai Fei Fei a good man, and the guy would understand this after the wedding. The young man noticed that Bai Sankai was quite smart because he could finish the same as those guys who attacked her before. Bai Fei Fei asked her father to stop because she believed that our hero was a thief who not only ignored a man in trouble but also stole her wallet. It was for this reason that she categorically refused the wedding, because she was sure that they obviously did not fit each other. Baitsan Hai understood that his daughter Volna did anything, but now he asked him to listen to him because, moreover, he was the owner of this company. Then the girl decided to allow our hero to join the company and hire him as an employee. She said that now Shu Wang will be as a low-level guard, and his monthly wages will be $1,200. A smirk immediately appeared on the girl's face, and she invited the main character to leave if he did not like something. Shu Van did not expect at all that his future wife would be such a vile person. The general director immediately saw confusion in the eyes of Shu Van, so it seemed outside the door behind his back and invited him to simply leave here. The main character was very angry due to the fact that the girl put him in such an uncomfortable situation. After some time, the events continue in the office of the Beisha Corporation. Shu Van was sitting with a bottle and angrily hit it on the table because he still had to get a guard. He could not believe that the leader of the best detachment of military forces, the Snow Wolf, was now a simple guard. The protagonist tried to reassure himself by the fact that right at that moment the best guard in the world was born. His thoughts about his fate suddenly interrupted the incoming call from an unknown number. The main character, with complete indifference, picked up the phone and asked who it was. Not expecting anything important from this call, it turned out that it was Bai Fei Fei, who ordered her new employee to immediately come to her. The young man quickly rose to his boss and asked what happened so important, which required his urgent presence. Shu Van was not going to stand for a long time, so he simply fell into a chair in the office of the general director. He was not at all afraid of Bai Fei Fei, so he boldly threw his legs right on the table. Our hero decided to laugh from the fact that probably his wife had just missed him. Bai Fei Fei could not understand why her father wanted her to marry such a man. She considered our hero to be cowardly, shameless, unreliable, and no matter how much she looked at him as a completely not attractive guy. The girl emphasized that she abandoned the doctoral degree in the country and did not return here to marry such a villain as Shui Van. The protagonist settled the cigarette, and meanwhile, Bai Fei Fei expressed her hopes that he would change his impression in the turns. Shu Van did not understand what the problem was, and the girl showed her face expression that she was not joking at all. He looked into the eyes of Bai Fei Fei and said that he was sure that he left a great impression after himself. The ingenious director could not believe what idiots really can exist in this world. In the end, she decided to finish the conversation on this topic and said that she wanted to discuss something with Shu Van. Shu Van extinguished the cigarette and suggested that the general director still changed his mind and wanted a relationship with him. The girl could no longer withstand such insolence from the side of our hero and was incredibly angry because of this. But she decided to simply ignore him and believed that the guy had only dirty thoughts on her mind. The young man laughed slyly before telling what was happening in his head. He confirmed that most men were so, and explained that he was just more honest in his words. Bai Fei Fei did not expect that our hero would be so straightforward, so she could no longer restrain her emotions with all his strength to hit the table. The guy did not expect at all that the general director would be so fierce, and from fright, he dropped the cigarette with his hands. He did not understand at all what was the reason for such a reaction of the girl, and decided to ask what was wrong. Meanwhile, Bai Fei Fei herself in her thoughts resigned to the fact that this man was hopeless. She explained that her father told her to take Shu Van with her to a meeting, even though she herself was against it. But in any case, they were here to discuss the current situation. The general director still agreed to take the protagonist with her to the meeting, but with some condition. The girl emphasized that Shu Wang will play only the role of her guard, so he should not create any problems. When the evening came, Shu Van, along with their boss, went on the limousine, went to the right place. It seems that this meeting was quite important, so Bai Fei Fei put on one of her best outfits. In turn, the protagonist was completely not serious, so the girl concluded that he missed all her words past his ears. Meanwhile, Shu Wang thought that the boss said to protect this girl, and even went so far that he made him marry her. But the guy could not understand who would want to harm her. He once again looked at his companion and thought about what secrets she could keep. Bai Fei Fei corrected her dress and reminded that tonight our hero was her partner and guard. She also emphasized that she did not want others to find out that her partner was a disgusting person, devoid of taste. It did not seem to the guy at all that he was so disgusting, and he was sure that the girl was accurately bent about the lack of taste. In the end, Zhu Van, with full confidence in his voice, said that his taste could not be understood by a simple mortal like her. Now, Bai Fei Fei realized that our hero is not only an unreliable, deceptive, cowardly, but also arrogant person. At that moment, the girl noticed that Shu Van continues to frankly stare at her body. That, of course, she did not like. The CEO did not at all appreciate this behavior of the young man, so she attacked to finally kill him. Very soon, they arrived in the Nandao area, where the desired club of Tianlun was located. Limousine stopped at the entrance and employees immediately opened Bai Fei Fei and her door companion. The girl once again glanced at the protagonist and hoped that he would not bring her too much trouble. At that moment, a guy came out of the club who immediately recognized Fei Fei and was surprised that she did not warn about her parish, because he would have taken her personally. The girl emphasized that they were not yet so close to Lin Xiao that he independently took her. This guy immediately noticed that the girl was not alone and asked what kind of person it was. Bai Fei Fei replied with complete indifference that it was just her guard, not attaching special importance to this. In turn, Zhu Van was not going to retreat just and directly stated that he was her future husband. Lin Xiao was very annoyed by such a turn of events because the whole city already knows that he loves Bai Fei Fei. He clenched his fist with anger, because some guy does not dare to say that he was his lover's husband. In the end, he accepted exactly the fact that our hero was a guard, and also decided to present his bodyguard. He asked a man named Luna to come closer because he definitely looked much harvesting than Sui Van. After the presentation of his employee, Lin Xiao said that his bodyguard for in the past was a professional mercenary. He also added that once a man killed 5 mercenaries alone, and 2 of them had all the bones broken. Meanwhile, the bodyguard himself laughed from the fact that the protagonist was taken into the guards with such low growth. Bai Fei Fei began to feel that the situation was too hesitating, so she asked Su Van not to get involved and go with her. The guard was not going to just lag behind our hero, so he began to mock the fact that he was hiding behind a woman. Lin Xiao laughed from this joke, but in the end asked her employee not to be so rude. The guy emphasized that still Shu Van was a guard Fei Fei, and when you beat the dog, you need to know who its master is. Major still could not come to terms with the fact that such an ordinary guy dared to be with Fei Fei, so he was about to make sure that he disappeared right after tonight. Meanwhile, the main character still did not answer all these provocations and just smiled. At the same time, he was not going to endure all these insults in his direction, so he looked at the bodyguard with a piercing look. Lon suddenly froze in place because he felt something very strange inside himself and could not understand what was happening. All this was due to the fact that he suddenly felt a murderous aura that came from our hero. The guy's strength was so great that the bodyguard could not stand it and fell sharply to his knees. Lon was sure that this was impossible because only the legendary personality is able to release such a murderous aura. In turn, Lin did not understand anything and thought that his employee was crazy, because of which he was now on his knees in front of some loser. But the aura was so terrifying that even such a strong bodyguard was not able to control his fear. The man desperately tried to understand who the main character was because he could not even contrast him with anything. Meanwhile, Shu Van laughed with the fact that he did not even have time to raise his hands, and the guard had already wedded, noting that he had definitely had problems with the bladder. Lon could not answer anything because he lost all his strength after he was so disgraced before everyone. Our hero decided not to waste time and invited Janushka to go already because there was too unpleasant smell here. In addition, he was already tired of the appearance of a person standing in front of him, and Bai Fei Fei was so shocked that she could not even answer anything. The main character understood that the girl was too shocked, so without further ado, he pulled her along. The general director continued to be silent, because so far she could not realize what had happened now. Now the girl began to suspect that it was the very good side of Shu Wang, which she simply had not seen before. At the same time, Lin Xiao was incredibly angry due to the fact that his bodyguard screwed right at the most important moment. In any case, Major was not going to just deviate from his goal, so he was sure that Bai Fei soon or later bow before him with the entire Beishi Corporation. When our heroes entered the building, the girl said that it was Lin Xiao, the young boss of the Linghai Corporation, and asked Shu Wang to be careful with this person. Suddenly, Bai Fei Fei noticed that for some reason the guy stopped abruptly and began to look at her intently. The main character was embarrassed by the fact that he did not even suspect that his future wife was so worried about him, which was why he was touched. He wanted to properly repay for this kindness, because now they are not strangers to each other, and tightly hug Bai Fei. But the young man was going to hug his boss only in order to embody his dirty thoughts into reality. The girl was not going to endure such behavior from her guard, so with incredible force she threw him away from herself. After a meeting with Lin Xiao, our heroes went to the dining room to finally go to the very meeting where they were heading from the very beginning. There was already a considerable number of rich people in the hall who was conducting secular conversations behind a glass of wine. At the same moment, Bai Fei Fei entered the hall, accompanied by her new guard, which attracted the attention of everyone. Everyone admired the general director of the Beisha Corporation and could not understand what kind of spawning was next to her because everyone was aware that she was absolutely lonely. The guests immediately paid attention to the tasteless clothes of the protagonist, so they concluded that he was just a guard. Meanwhile, the girl did not pay attention to all these glances directed at her and turned to our hero. She emphasized that the most influential people of the city of Nandao are here. Bai Fei Fei herself came here because she needed to discuss something with these influential people, and asked the guy not to jerk nearby. It is better to go and eat something. The turning out, the girl realized that the main character had already gone somewhere, so she talked with the void all this time. It was 9 o'clock in the evening, and Sui Van still hadn't eaten anything in a day, so he immediately eagerly pounced on food, because of which he attracted attention to himself. Now the general director thought that she said all this in vain, because her new employee was simply insatiable. She already thought that he was still a strong man, but in fact the main character was a continuous disappointment for her. Suddenly, among all the treats, the guy saw his favorite yummy in the form of a huge crab. Our hero, without hesitation, immediately reached for this dish, but noticed that he did not want to try this dish. He instantly looked up to see who it was and was pretty surprised. It turned out that it was Yan Pan, who recently became his neighbor in the room. The girl, like our hero, held a fried duck in her hands and could not understand why her neighbor was here. Yu Van was so shocked by such an unexpected meeting that he could not even explain why he was here. Then Yan Pan decided to guess herself and suggested that the guy made his way here for a free dinner. The main character did not like such a version at all, so he tried to explain the whole truth. The girl was not going to listen to him because she did not see anything shameful in this and offered to go together to try the whole kitchen. She also added with a smile on her face that, besides this, good wine is also poured here for everyone. The girl rejoiced at such an opportunity because such a wine costs $5,000 per bottle. But this did not particularly surprise our hero. Shu Van did not even know that Lao's daughter was so poor that he could not pay not only for rent, but also makes his way to meetings to eat for free. The main character perfectly understood that he needed to do something about it, because he was in debt to his comrade. Meanwhile, Yanpan patted Shuwana to pay his attention to something important. She turned. Her gaze darted to the crowd of the rich, and without hesitation she pointed to the girl who stood out among them. This man was Bai Fei Fei, and now Yanpan said that she was the youngest of all those present that they occupy such posts, and moreover, she was exactly the one who created a miracle in this city. By the way, even this meeting was personally organized precisely by the general director of Beishi Corporation. Sui Van immediately lit up his eyes because he was sure that the girl was really something and approached the role of his woman. Meanwhile, Yan Pan did not stop and said that the girl's girlfriend's husband's brother's friend works in Baisha's Beishi Corporation, Bei Fei Fei. Finally, Shu Van said that he did not need all this information because he was already personally familiar with the CEO. The girl was shocked when she found out that her new neighbor personally knew Bai Fei Fei herself. The guy decided not to waste time on unnecessary explanations and directly stated that Bai Fei Fei was his wife. Yan Pan immediately decided that her acquaintance was simply crazy, because such a statement seemed a complete absurdity. The girl decided to support the dreams of the protagonist, but believed that Bai Fei Fei in the role of his wife was just madness. A guy from the crowd intervened in their conversation, who emphasized that our hero was really too noticed, because every man present here wants to be the husband of the general director. He was sure that in any case, his comrades would agree that only a few would suit such a chic woman. Yan Pan reported that she needed to go to the restroom, and to our hero recommended not to talk about her wife, because still, no one would believe. Zhu Van did not give up and continued to convince Yan Pan that he was telling the pure truth. At that moment, Lin Xiao appeared in the hall, who immediately attracted attention, because he held a beautiful jade in his hands. The main character also turned around to see what was the matter. Everyone around noted that the director of Lin is really generous, because such a magnificent jade necklace should be expensive. The men were sure that they would not be able to buy such a jewelry, even if they had enough money. Lin Xiao approached Bai Fei Fei and said that he brought this jade specifically for her directly from Myanmar. He emphasized that this necklace is invaluable because this decoration was created by the best masters of their craft. Major continued to boast of the fact that it was the only thing in the whole world, so only Fei Fei can compare with its beauty. One of the girls joyfully said that the director Lin and director of Bai were definitely the perfect couple, because Lin Xiao was literally obsessed with his lover. Women around with admiration watched such a manifestation of love, dreaming of the same generous man. Yan Pan asked our hero not to look at them like that, because they were definitely a couple, and it is useless to envy, so it's better to just go and have a bite. In any case, Bai Fei Fei was not going to accept this gift, because she believed that she did not deserve such a gift. Lin Xiao asked the girl not to be so official because he was ready to give her such a gift. And once again, I emphasize that this is the best jade necklace in the world. In the end, the main character could no longer keep his emotions inside, so he decided to intervene in the situation. He began to push everyone away because he could not watch this guy flirts with his wife in front of everyone. Meanwhile, Yan Pan could not understand what our hero was going to do and tried to stop him. Other men also told the guy to stop, recalling that he was among respected people. At that moment, Lin Xiao also broke and rudely grabbed a girl who was not going to succumb to his courtship. Bai Fei Fei begged him to stop, but at the same time she kept his hardness, demanding that he simply let her go and do not suit the scenes. Lin Xiao began to put pressure on the girl by the fact that everyone looked at them, so she would just disgrace herself now. Still, this convinced her to calm down, so now the boyfriend could easily put on her jade necklace. The girl understood that Lin Xiao uses that today. There was an important press conference for Baisha's corporation to force her to accept this necklace. At the same time, she understood that if she accepts this gift, then tomorrow all the newspaper headlines would be full of gossip. But she certainly did not want to, because the line of Lin was engaged in illegal trade. Obviously, such gossip will damage the reputation and development of her company. So now, Bai Fei Fei just fell into a trap, not knowing what to do. Then the protagonist was still approaching them, who grabbed the conceited tench of Xiao by the hand in which he held the necklace. Around the guy, a murderous aura was again hovering. He asked Major who allowed his wife to touch. Lin Xiao was very annoyed by the fact that the main character again intervened in his plans for Bai Fei Fei. Everyone around could not understand why some jerk calls himself the husband of the director of Bai, because he was an ordinary guard, but allowed himself to exceed authority. Due to anger, Xu Wang stopped filtering insults towards Lin Xiao and promised to deal with him right now. Lin Xiao thought that this puppy had already completely survived from the mind and was about to show his competitor his place. Now, the main character, I thought that everything could be much more complicated than it seemed before. The next second, Major with a grin on his face ordered his guard to throw this guy out of here. Now, Shu Van with a little fear in his eyes looked at the guards who began to surround him a little, realizing that he could not arrange fights here. Yan Pan instantly decided to protect her neighbor and explained to the employees that this was just a misunderstanding. The girl lied that our hero turned to her, and not to the director of Bai, and promised that they would leave here right now. She carefully pulled the guy by the sleeve and asked Zhu Van to let the mud of Xiao so that they could calmly leave. The main character could not understand what his acquaintance was doing, because he had never called her his wife in his life. Bai Fei Fei was not at all enough that her guard already had a wife, and could not understand how her father chose such a person. Meanwhile, the guy desperately tried to prove to the director of Bai that everything was not the way she thought. Our hero explained that this girl's name is Lan Yanzhan, and she was not his wife, but just a neighbor. The girl still continued to play her role and said that they should not be embarrassed by the fact that they lived together. Our hero was very angry due to the fact that she behaved like that, and could not understand that she decided to turn it here. Yan Pan asked not to say anything else because Bai Fei Fei and Lin Xiao were definitely not those people who could just be poured. So she tried to save her friend. Meanwhile, Bai Fei Fei gave a voice and asked the guy to stop making excuses so as not to arrange a scene here. The main character could not believe that his acquaintance really tried to save him in this way, because she only buried him even more. Lin Xiao called the guy a fraudster, because he already had a woman, who certainly did not give him the right to flirt with a fry. He perfectly understood that his opponent had just buried himself, so he ordered him to get out of here with a smile on his face. Then he turned to Fei Fei and asked not to waste time on this idiot, and it is better to return to his necklace. The main character was still not going to retreat so easily, so he asked everyone to stop. Lin Xiao was irritated that the guy still could not lag behind them, and emphasized that his patience also had a limit. Zhu Van resolutely stated that the jade necklace, which everyone took for valuable, was actually a cheap fake, intending to reveal the fraud. All guests were shocked and were sure that this guy was lying, because they trusted Lin Xiao. Bai Fei Fei also froze in place and thought about whether her gift was just a cheap fake. According to the excited expression, Lin Xiao could say that most likely the main character was right in his guesses. Then he decided to get out, than that such a simpleton as Xu Wang. He had never seen jade, so he had no right to declare such. Everyone around was sure that such a rich man did not need to buy a fake, which was also too beautiful. Yan Pan stood aside and now understood that in this case, she certainly could not be saved by the protagonist. In turn, Shu Van did not stand on ceremony and simply grabbed a jade necklace from the hands of his opponent. The guy understood that for the second time people said that he had no taste, but he was not going to be angry with it. He was sure that to say that someone had no taste, how correctly, it looks extremely ridiculous and even somewhat arrogant. Now, Bai Fei Fei realized that the guy was still fraught with her offense and was offended by the insult that she told him in the car. Meanwhile, our hero lifted up the necklace and openly stated that it was not made from jade at all. Lin Xiao was already incredibly angry and advised his opponent to stop pretending, because as if Fei Fei already knows what kind of person he was, the protagonist still stood on his own and said to everyone that the necklace was not from a real jade, but from a stamp similar to him called jadete. He explained that there is a difference between jadeite and jade, although they were both crystals and are known as quartz. The main difference was that the firmness and density of nephritis is much lower than already jadite, although it looks more beautiful. So weighing is the best way to check them. Yan Pan admired that the guy knew so much because she did not even understand what he was talking about. But it turned out that he knew his job. Lin Xiao understood that all his lies were opening more and more, so he ordered the main character to stop chatting. He stated that the whole city of Nantao does not even realize the value of the stone, so an ordinary peasant definitely cannot understand the jewelry. Bai Fei Fei still crept in doubts, so she asked the guard to stop, because if the Tseo is clean, then Shu Van could simply continue and finally prove his rightness. But if Tseo Lin is afraid that he will still be revealed, then they can simply be thrown out without any problems. The girl began to notice that Lin Xiao really looks nervous, so she believed that his gift was a fake. In the end, she decided that all this does not matter, because if there is Shu Van here, then Lin Xiao would not impose her necklace for her. The cunning rich man began to get nervous more and more, and in a trembling voice proved that he was not scared at all. He could not understand. And where did the usual bodyguard had such specialized knowledge? and suggested that the guy was simply jealous and was arranging such a scene because of this. Meanwhile, the main character said that they would find out the truth when the audit was over, and asked him to give him Menzurka to weigh the necklace with the help of it. When everything was ready, Shu Van with one light movement pulled out one of the precious stones to start checking. Then he threw the green crystal directly into the Menzurka with water, which was prepared specifically for this. Lin Xiao incredibly panicked and began to threaten our hero by the fact that he certainly could not restore such a jewel if she wants to scratch a little. At this moment, Shu Van demonstrated that he was able to measure the weight of the necklace and explained that it was quite simple, just needed to subtract the initial mass from the current mass. As you know, water density is from 3.30 to 3.36, while the jade density is from 2.48 to 2.65. The guy was sure that everyone who studied at school knew that you can find out the mass of the object by determining its density. Lin Xiao, already all his appearance gave his uncertainty that he nevertheless gave the real ones to his beloved. At the same time, our hero explained that in this way, according to current dimensions, if this jade is genuine, its mass should be from 119 to 123 grams. If the jewelry is made of smaller jade, then the mass should be about 90 grams. Bai Fei was even more confident in the guy's words after he explained a fairly effective way to check the jade. Lin Xiao understood that the matter was bad, because Lin Kai had financial problems now. So he had been looking for the one who would make a fake necklace for so long. He was shocked that Shu Van did not even touch the necklace, but somehow found out that it was really fake. In the end, with the help of Libra, they got the result and found out that the stone weighed only 91 grams. Everyone around was shocked by this, that the guy was still right and was able to recognize a fake just looking at her. Now Yan Pan also admired that Shu Van was really so smart. Lin Xiao realized that all his deception was disclosed, so he began to panic due to the fact that this could bring great consequences for him. He began to lie that he himself did not know that the necklace was false and promised to find a fraudster, then give Fei Fei a real jewel. The main character decided to get closer to his opponent in order to better consider how he is trying to justify himself. Inside, Lin Xiao was very angry and promised to avenge Shu Van for destroying all his plans. After all these clearances, the heroes simply decided to leave this meeting and send her to the limousine who was waiting for them already at the entrance. Yan Pan was very curious, so all this time she tried to find out from our hero what was happening, and how does he know Bai Fei. Shu Van tried to push her softly from himself and explained that he had some things that still need to take care of, and the story of his acquaintance was very long, so he promised to tell her later. The girl did not expect that the main character could leave her here alone, and this caused her a mixture of surprise and a slight resentment. She could not understand how to return to her if the road home costs as much as $80, which she certainly did not have. Bai Fei was also angry with his guard for leaving his wife alone and was going to just leave. Our hero thought that the girl was simply jealous of him and emphasized that she was actually his only wife. In the end, the director Bai could not stand it and ordered his guard to stop behaving like that and call her a wife in public. The guy smiled and promised that he would listen to his wife's requests and call her so only when they would be alone. Bai Fei was offended and promised to tell her father everything about Shu Vanya as soon as they returned back. It was at this moment that the protagonist came to the phone of the main character. He quickly looked at the screen and saw a message there from the destroyed snowman. The Without a Trace snowman is the best group of killers all over the world. It is very mysterious, but the success in all its missions is able. Although the organization is considered a group, in fact, it is managed by two, including Shu Van, a former participant who went into a squad of snow wolves. For this reason, the organization now has only one leader, namely Jing Xiaokei. It turned out that the main character was informed that 20:10 p.m. someone would follow Bai Fei, so he needs to prepare. Our hero immediately looked at his watch and saw that he had only 3 minutes before that time. He knew that the information of Jing Xiaoke never is false, and there was no time left at all. So Sui Van needs to be on the alert. The guy immediately began decisive action and grabbed his companion by the hand. Then he ordered the driver to stop the car immediately to protect Bai Fei. The girl was scared due to this behavior of her guard and asked why he was doing all this. Shu Van quickly explained that now they are in a very dangerous situation, so the director should ask the driver to stop. She was not going to believe in all this nonsense after the last events, so she charged our hero with a strong slap in the face. Bai Fei thought that the young man had completely crazy, so she began to threaten him with the police if he did not let her go right now. Just at that time, a truck flew from a turn, which accelerated to crash into a limousine, where his goal was. Unfortunately, the protagonist could not prevent trouble, so a dangerous clash happened. Zhu Van irritably called his companion a stupid woman and emphasized that they had too little time. The girl continued the quarrel and ordered our hero to get out of here right now, because he dared to raise her voice on her. The protagonist was not going to listen to his boss and closed her with his body to protect him from a blow. Bai Fei Fei thought the guy was still satisfied with the scene, not suspecting that her life is under threat. In the end, a truck that rushed at incredible speed simply dragged the car from its journey. The main character pressed Bai Fei Fei to himself and explained that he just needed to protect his future wife. Meanwhile, their limousine made several revolutions in the air before landing after such a strong collision. After such a serious accident, the car of course caught fire, which is why the danger became even more serious. The personal driver of Bai Fei Fei was most injured, so his life broke right at the same second. In turn, the girl looked at the protagonist with admiration, who managed to react and save their lives in time. Suddenly, she saw that blood was dripping from the guy, so she excitedly asked if everything was in order with him. Meanwhile, a considerable number of mercenaries that were ordered by Bai Fei Fei just to give up so that she was not hurt to hurt. Suivana greatly angered that some killers allow themselves to lead with his future wife. The mercenaries laughed that our hero was lucky that he was able to survive such a serious attack. The leader of the bandits emphasized that the guy's life belongs to himself, so he can simply give a woman and be free. Bai Fei Fei was too scared, so I begged that Shu Van would not leave her here alone. In turn, the guy also did not stand ceremony and ordered the leader to put the knife, kneel in front of him and cut off his hand, and maybe after that he would think about maintaining a mercenary life. This immediately brought the gang leader to emotions, because of which he had a veins on his face, and his gaze became stiff and threatening. He thought that the main character went crazy, talking to him in such a disrespectful tone. The bandit did not lose time anymore and ordered his subordinates to first kill Bai Fei Fei, and then cut the guy into pieces because he was going to eat him today for dinner. The main character immediately warned his companion that it was she who was the main goal of the mercenaries, so he asked her to stay in place and not move. He emphasized that he would not allow some thug to touch his wife, because of which she was a little embarrassed. The girl grabbed Su Wana by the sleeve of his jacket and softly asked not to be so impudent. She understood that there were too many bandits, because of which it was too dangerous to fight them alone. Bai Fei Fei explained that she could agree with mercenaries and give them money, thus winning them time for the arrival of the police. The main character understood that his woman wanted to take care of him, but was not going to stand aside when the bandits looked down on him. Having drove a little, the young man no longer waited and rushed into battle with his rivals with one sharp jerk. After a few seconds, he was already near the mercenaries and was able to neutralize his first opponent with one exact blow to the knee. The bandit did not even have time to react to such a sudden attack, because of which only his teeth scattered in different directions. After a very short period of time, the next bandit fell under a strong blow of the protagonist. Next, Shu Van's hands were used, and his blows were so fast and accurate that the mercenaries simply did not have time to react and respond to attacks. Thus, the guy was able to defeat everyone who got in his way, leaving not a single chance of resistance to enemies. Bai Fei Fei, not taking her eyes off, watched this battle from the side, could not believe that our hero was really so strong. Now Shu Van calmly stood among the bodies of all his defeated rivals, as if the recent battle was something ordinary and not worthy of attention to him. The guy with a burning look noted that he, in my opinion, was too warm up and overdid it a little in this battle. None of the mercenaries were now conscious, so our hero will not be able to find out at least some information about this attack. Events are transferred somewhere far into the sea, where a huge whale dissected the waves and several gulls flew over it. It turned out that there was Jing Xiaokei, who was immediately delighted when he heard the voice of the protagonist. In fact, Shu Van called his acquaintance to find out what was happening and why the goal is Bai Fei Fei. Jing Xiaoku continued to sail along the waves on his whale and asked the guy not to rush him. With a smile on his face, he promised to answer all the questions of the protagonist. Firstly, the acquaintance said that there was a reward behind Bai Fei Fei, but it is not so high, about $50,000. Jing Xiaoke looked through the hunt for hunting and noticed that this girl was on the list, and the investigation of her pursuers should end a few days later. Also, the former leader of the group of the murderers noted that our hero may guess, how does he know that the guy was with Bai Fei Fei? The guy immediately guessed that his acquaintance was told about this by Uncle Lee or any guys from the Snow Wolf detachment. In the end, he decided to hang a phone, because he has some more things to take care of right now. Now, Bai Fei Fei understood that this guy was mysterious and actually hides his strength. So she began to guess that this is why her father wanted her to marry such a person. At the same time, she understood that it was quite useless, because it is impossible to beat someone in order to easily solve problems in modern society. Because everything who is smarter solves everything. Jing Shaoqi asked our hero not to hang the phone because he wanted to warn him about the danger from the group of Ban Tan killers, because they recently sent many killers to the city of Nantao. Zhu Van immediately concluded that today's killers were clearly loved by amateurs, and realized that if Bai Fei Fei had a good bodyguard, then there should not be problems with such mercenaries. He began to worry that the girl could try to kill more than once. Therefore, most likely, they will check her environment. The guy began to look around nervously, realizing that the killers could find a weak place and begin to kill a little later. In the end, the main character realized that he was watched from the nearest high-rise building, and noticed that these guys were pretty good, and all this would be difficult. He also remembered and tried to understand the words of Uncle Lee that Bai Fei Fei was connected with some important secret. Now the guy realized that it was a grand operation, and from that moment he needed to be more careful. Meanwhile, the mysterious figure carefully watched what was happening from the skyscraper window, hiding in the shade. This man realized that Bai Fei Fei would really be difficult to kill, but he was able to find several idiots to first explore the situation around her. Thus, he got the information that people around her are pretty good. So first you need to kill Shu Wang, who defended this girl. Meanwhile, our heroes were taken from the scene by another car, smoothly slipping along the night streets, hiding them from curious eyes and leaving behind the chaos of the recent battle. The protagonist was considering that before hanging up the phone, Jing Shaoke said that a group of the best killers of Ban sent a lot of killers here and tried to understand what they wanted to do. He could not understand whether this was connected with Bai Fei Fei or Si to Lan Yanpan, and understood that everything was only more complicated. Suddenly, the girl, forgetting all her insults, decided to thank her guard for today. Our hero immediately lit up his eyes when he saw that Bai Fei Fei was still softer towards him. The guy laughed and noticed that they were in any case a family, so there is no need to thank him for such trifles. Bai Fei Fei realized that our hero again undertook to get her, and with resentment turned away to the window. Shu Van also looked out the window and noticed that this was not the road back, so he asked where they were going. The girl explained that her father had just reported what happened, because of which he was worried, and asked them to come to the mansion. The protagonist immediately began to dream that he would sleep today with Bai Fei Fei, which was very exciting. It was already a deep night when they finally drove up to the chic mansion of Mr. Bai. Suddenly, Bai Fei Fei noticed that for some reason Shu Van was strange, so she asked what happened to him. She noticed that the guy was cruel when he beat those bandits, but for some reason he was very nervous now. The protagonist explained that he was awkward due to the fact that today should be their first joint night. The girl could not believe that the reason was so stupid, because of which she was very angry once again by Sui Van. Bai Sanhai was happy that his daughter was intact and unharmed, because from the very beginning he was sure that with such a guy, she would definitely be in good hands. He also thanked the protagonist because he was next to the girl at such a moment. At that moment, Bai Fei Fei jumped up and asked her father to send Shu Van home if nothing else was required from him, because it was as if it were too late. Bai Sanhai was shocked by his daughter's behavior and could not believe that she was talking about her savior. How he added that Shu Van and Bai Fei Fei were a family, so the girl could not relate to her husband. The girl protested because she did not even know our hero and had no relationship with him. But now he somehow became her husband. At this moment, the father demonstrated documents that spoke the opposite. The man proudly said that he had already issued all the documents for marriage. Bai Fei Fei immediately opened the documents and saw that inside there was her joint photo with Shu Van and a marriage certificate. The girl was furious when she found out about such an act of her father, and he emphasized that from that moment, they would be two together. She angrily asked why her father acted so recklessly and did not at all ask her opinion. The man asked his daughter not to be nervous and look at how calm and assembled Shu Van was. He believed that such things are urgent. But since Shu Van and Bai Fei Fei were busy all the time, he decided to do it for them. In fact, the main character only remained calm outside. But this music was happy inside that Bai Sanhai was such an excellent father. Meanwhile, Bai Fei Fei was incredibly upset that he was now married to such a person. The father did not pay attention to this and stated that from now on it would be their house. So our hero may not be shy and live here. The guy was delighted with such an opportunity and was now going to stay here for today to stay with Fei Fei. The girl herself immediately hit the table and stated that she did not agree that the main character would remain here. The man was dissatisfied with the fact that his daughter was behaving like a child again, and once again repeated that from that moment she should live with her husband. In addition, Baitsan Kai had already noticed that Shu Van was wounded after he defended the girl. The father believed that Bai Fei Fei should take care of him, because the guy was injured, protecting her. Bai Fei Fei was absolutely anyway to this fact, so she offered her father to sleep with Shu Van, if he wants the guy not to stay in this house. She was in incredible rage, so she stated that she did not even want to see the protagonist. Now, Shu Van and Baitsan Hai looked at each other in absolute silence, not understanding what to do next. In the end, our hero decided that he was still better to go to his home today. The old man was by no means going to allow this, because he was still the master of this house and decided that the guy would sleep here today. Shu Van still tried to avoid this awkward situation and still obey what Fei Fei said. The man was not going to listen to any excuses because now Shu Van was married and should take care of his wife and make her cease to be so impudent. He was so angry and dissatisfied with this situation that the main character could not even put his word in this conversation. Also, Baitsan Hai asked him to call his uncle anymore, because now the guy was married to his daughter. In fact, our hero was only glad to take care of his own wife and was pleased that he had such a good one. Baitsan Hai reminded the guy that he should not allow his woman to do what she wants, and suggested that Zhu Wang could still win his daughter tonight. The man finally turned around and promised the main hero of good luck in such a difficult matter. Zhu Van was so shocked by his father-in-law that he did not say a word and only looked after him. For the first time, he called Baitsan Hai his father and persuaded him to fulfill all his instructions. Our hero believed that this father was special because he himself insists on rudeness with his daughter. Although he was nervous, he realized that Baitsan Hai allowed him absolutely everything. So there was a great chance to take this opportunity. In the end, the guy was delighted that he tore off in such a jackpot in his life. Our hero instantly ran to the second floor and saw that Bai Fei Fei was just about to enter his room. At this time, the girl thought that her father was becoming more and more indifferent to her, so she began to suspect that she does not mean anything to him. Suddenly, she felt some close look behind her back, from which goosebumps ran along her skin. This immediately made her turn around to find the source of these strange sensations. As a result, she just found our hero, who looked at her with a slight smile. Bai Fei Fei, with obvious discontent, asked why Shu Wang came here without hiding her irritation. The main character, as if nothing had happened, replied that he just wanted to sleep. The girl immediately confidently said that in no case would Sui Van sleep in her room. Shu Van recalled that now they are officially married, so they should live together, and talked about what his father told him to the girl. The guy decided not to wait anymore and just went into the room. And Bai Fei Fei could not believe that he allows himself such a daring behavior. Bai Fei Fei instantly ordered our hero to stop right now and not to allow himself to be too much. She did not like the fact that the main character burst without saying anything, because she did not manage to remove her things. The girl no longer drove Shu Van and asked him to at least wait outside while she got her room. The main character was not going to listen to her and already sat down in a chair, asking what the problem was. In the end, he believed that without problems he could see the things of his wife, since now it is a natural and familiar thing for him. Such behavior of the guy was even more angry with Bai Fei Fei, because she still could not come to terms with her marriage. It seems that at that moment the girl remembered something important, so she fell silent sharply. It turned out that Bai Fei Fei was incredibly embarrassed due to the fact that our hero could see her underwear, which was still on the balcony. She ran as soon as possible towards the doors to hide all his things that the guy certainly should not see. Right near the doors, she stopped, because the main character seemed to have already found something and was interested in what it was. Bai Fei Fei was surprised and turned to see what was happening behind her. It turns out that the main character had already found some personal belongings of his wife and was surprised that she really wore something like that. The girl did not expect that this would happen so quickly, so she did not even know what to answer. She, without hesitation, rushed forward to take her things from the hands of the protagonist as quickly as possible. Bai Fei Fei could not cease to be embarrassed due to the fact that she fell into such an awkward situation. Our hero decided not to get the girl anymore and stated that he was too tired, so he was going to go to bed. He fell on the bed and thought that it was very surprising that such a cold, high-class woman had such strange tastes. At the same time, Bai Fei Fei continued to sit on the floor and think that she could not allow Shu Van to sleep here, so she was going to drive him out of her room. After this awkward situation, the girl could not look our hero in the eye, so she neatly turned to see what he was doing. It turned out that the guy had only a few minutes to sleep with a sweet sleep. Bai Fei was furious when she saw that the main character had already fell asleep and spilled on her bed. A few minutes later, she changed clothes and was already ready for bed. So she stood near the bed and thought what to do. The girl wondered that you can still let our hero stay here. She understood that if Sui Van wake up, he would again begin to ask her about this awkward situation. Be that as it may, Bai Fei thought that it was only one night. Tomorrow, she could calmly drive the guy from her room. Zhu Van slept completely restlessly, so he began to turn back and threw his leg right on the girl. Outside, she tried to behave calmly, but already thought that if the guy moves at least once, then she was sure to knock out all the nonsense from him. It turned out that our hero did not sleep at all and checked the reaction of Bai Fei that he would put his leg in this way. He noticed that the girl looked rather nervous, so he decided to put her hand nearby. The protagonist was sure that Bai Fei would not beat him for such a trifle, even if she did not like it much. With his eyes closed, Zhu Van could not calculate the exact position of his hand, so he still touched the girl's body. The guy did not suspect anything and only thought that he had some strange feeling at hand, something soft and elastic. In the end, the main character realized that he had touched his hand at all, and suspected that there would be serious consequences because of this. At that very moment, Bai Fei inflicted a very strong blow with her foot and just threw the guy from her bed. The guy did not have time to react to his wife's sudden attack, so he just hit the floor. Our hero believed that he has the right to such an insignificant mistake and asked for mercy because he did not want to die. Meanwhile, Bai Fei, who was already in tears and was hiding behind the blanket, called the guy a real moron. Events are transferred the next day, when the protagonist was heading for his new place of work in the office of Beishi Corporation. The guy got a lot after yesterday's night, so now a huge bruise flaunted on his face. Liu Gochi, who was now a colleague of our hero, asked what happened to his eye. Zhu Van explained that last night, when he slept with Bai Fei, she pushed him out of bed and complained that he did not know how to make contact with her. All the guards in the room were shocked when they heard the setting up by a true story from the protagonist. Liu Gochi immediately thought that the newcomer was just joking, because he was sure that the general director could not be with such a person. The guards began to joke over the guy and said that maybe he still had a relationship with the Miss of the Universe itself. Zhu Van still said that all this was an absolute truth. All our hero's colleagues were surprised that he was not afraid to joke on this topic, because he could be fired for this reason. They were sure that the guy would be severely punished if the authorities still find out about his antics, so they tried to warn the newcomer about this. The guards allowed him to fantasize about such things, but recommended not to talk about dreams in hearing. Zhu Van was upset and could not understand why no one believes him every time he tells the truth. Liu Gochi warned our hero that he was better to be silent, because now the boss came to them. The guard quickly ran to his place and Zhu Van turned to see who it was. The whole guard immediately lined up in the line, and the head of the service, Li Chui, asked why the guys were lulled during duty. The boss examined all his employees, and among the guards in a clean uniform saw the protagonist, who was clearly standing out because he stood in dirty everyday clothes. He heard everything that his wards talked about, and recalled that the Beisha Group is included in the top 500 of the best companies in this world. The man emphasized that the largest company would not tolerate lazy workers, especially young people who can only talk, so he hoped that some of them would think and begin to behave as it should be. Li Chui asked the beginner to fully realize that he was a guard, and if he does not want this, he could safely leave. Although Sui Van was here for several days, he decided to give him the first mission, which was that the guy should help employees find their missing things. In addition, he made a remark to the main character and asked him to put on his form. Zhu Van fulfilled all the instructions and went to the task, and his colleague immediately began to say that the guy should not say all these things. The guard noted that the boss certainly did not like the behavior of a newcomer, so he specifically gives a task and reduces the salary. Our hero asked his comrade not to worry, because finding the lost things for him was not anything special. He handed his colleague a cigarette and offered to smoke in order to calm down a little. Li and Chui immediately refused, because the company's rules say that they cannot smoke during working hours. The main character did not share such anxiety because there was nobody around, so he did not see any problem in this. The colleague still was not going to retreat just like that and took the cigarette from the hands of Zhu Van. He always adhered to the rules, so he threw a cigarette instead of a guy, and emphasized that if Li Chui sees this, he would definitely wipe the newcomer to powder. Zhu Van, with a smile on his face, patted his new comrade on the shoulder. and praised him for being such an honest guy. The guy promised not to smoke anymore at work and informed his colleague that he would go to fulfill his mission. Liu Goqi still did not lag behind the guy and said that the boss gave him this task only to throw a newcomer out of the company. The protagonist was surprised and asked what was the reason for such a decision. Li and Chui. The guard explained that this has been happening for 6 months, and someone has been stealing the office's employees all the time. The police came dozens of times, but could not do anything with this problem. That is why Liu Goqi was sure that the boss brought the newcomer simply an impossible task. Our hero considered an interesting thing that was not disclosed for 6 months, and objects that steal only in women. The guy was not at all against such a task, but could not understand why and to Chui to hate him. Liu Goqi smiled sincerely and promised to praise the protagonist in front of the boss so that he would stop testing the negative for a beginner. He continued to tell that their guard's duties were quite simple, but suddenly, Xu Van felt something and froze. Our hero stopped and put a finger to his comrade so that he fell silent and would not frighten off a possible goal. It turned out that in one of the offices, the guy heard female cries who were mixed with a male voice. It was Chao Shui and manager Lion Manager, who molested an employee definitely not at her request. He was going to calculate the prize with his subordinates, but for this she had to pay a little differently. The main character immediately thought that this could be a clue, and Liu Goqi was shocked because he became a witness to this scene. The manager pressed the employee that she had a brother who now really needs financial assistance. The man brazenly manipulated this to get the girl, and threatened that he would not give her a promotion. Xiaojie was very afraid, so she burst into tears that the boss simply let her go. The manager believed that the woman does not dare to tell him what and how to do, so he only grinned arrogantly, making it clear that her words have no meaning for him. At that moment, guards burst into the room, who could no longer observe this situation from the outside. The protagonist turned to the manager and ordered him right now to release this defenseless employee. When Chao Shui saw a chance of her salvation, she immediately began to break away from the manager of the lawn. In the end, she was still able to break out of the man's hands and ran as soon as possible to the guards to help her. She hid behind the back of the protagonist and now tried to calm down after such an unpleasant situation. Meanwhile, Manager Lion did not worry at all and began to threaten that he was too important a person in this corporation. So some ordinary guards could not bother him just like that. This was not scared by our hero, so he showed a neglecting gesture and replied that he knew very well who this man was. Meanwhile, Liu Goqi warned his colleague that he was a Beishi group, as well as this person was more important than Li Chui, so you need to be more careful. The guard was sure that they could not argue like a person, like Manager Liang. In any case, Xu Van was sure that some manager was not more influential than his wife, who belongs to this company. The man immediately noticed that my hero was rather brave, so he first sees in this company someone more reckless than himself. The manager was ready to argue that he could throw a guy out of here with just one phone call. Liu Goqi added that this guy's name is Liang Jianzhen, and his father is a shareholder of this company. He has his own shares here, so they definitely cannot resist such an important person. The chief hero did not care whether it was a shareholder or not, because in any case he was not going to include such garbage. The guy was directly going to ask the father of this man how he could grow such an animal as his son. The manager could not withstand such an insolence of the protagonist, so he rushed into a fight to teach the guy for his words. Zhu Wang, it seems, was just waiting for this, so now a confident smirk appeared on his face. Our hero was only enough to put his hand in order to block this blow, so he confidently asked if the manager was thinking that he was the strongest here. Liang Jianchen himself could not believe that his opponent was able to fend off his blow so easily, as if it were an ordinary warm-up before a real battle. In addition, the man felt that he could not move at all. So now he just began to threaten Xu Van so that he would let him go in a good way. The guy squeezed the manager so much in the hand, began to change his color, and the veins were swollen. The man could not withstand such pressure and began to scream in pain. Now he begged our hero to let him go, because he felt that very soon his hand would just break. Before fulfilling the request of Liang Jianchen, the guy asked if he recognized himself as a complete scum. Xu Van once again asked if the manager's father was able to grow such a mean person. Liang Jianchen continued to threaten the guy and promised to tell the boss Li and I feel that he simply fired his employee. Suddenly, someone went into the office and asked who the manager was going to dismiss this again. It turned out that it was Bai Fei Fei, who now believed that the staff manager takes too much herself. Liu Goqi and Chao Shui were pretty surprised when they saw that the general director came here. The main character was also delighted when he saw his wife and wanted to say hello to her. The girl threw towards Chu Van a formidable look, which reminded him that he could not call her wife in public. The guy instantly remembered this agreement and immediately called Bai Fei Fei just a boss. He continued to hold the manager's hand and said that Liang Jianchen was pestering women among white days. The main character demanded that the man apologize, otherwise he was going to force him to scrape the toilets. After the explanation, Sui Van immediately remembered that Bai Fei Fei did not allow him to call her his wife in public and does not want someone to find out about them. The main character was not against continuing to play along with the girl, but in any case was sure that one day he would force her to call him his husband. Meanwhile, the general director carefully looked at his subordinate, and he began to explain this whole situation. In the end, the girl simply did not listen and asked Shu Van so far to let her employee. The main character immediately obeyed his wife and fulfilled her instruction. The humiliated Liang Jiangchen bitterly said that he would definitely remember this to the guard and avenge to restore his honor. Bai Fei Fei noted that both guards have worked well today, so she promised to increase their salary by $500 as gratitude. Liu Goqi, who, in principle, did nothing, was very delighted with this decision of the CEO of Bai. The girl turned around and noticed that Qiao Xue also performed perfectly and behaved adequately. Therefore, the general director said that the employee would be transferred to her office and will become her secretary. Qiao Xue immediately lit up with happiness and asked if this is really happening. The girl thanked the general director and promised to do everything possible to thank the decision as much as possible. In the end, Bai Fei Fei, having finished this conversation, asked not to spread her employees and not spoil the company's image, or they will simply be dismissed. Our hero was not going to let his wife just so and asked why she released Liang Jianchen. He considered it unacceptable because the manager dared to insult someone's daughter without even thinking about the consequences of his actions. The girl was not going to explain Sui Van, so she just asked to let her go. The main character continued to stand on his own, so he was not going to let Bai Fei Fei go until she explains her decisions. Then the girl explained that the manager's father was a major shareholder of the company, so even she could not control everything, because of which she could not do anything with this scoundrel. Shu Van could not believe it because he believed that some old man could not be a major shareholder. Bai Fei Fei said that this employee was only 30 years old, but because of alcohol his condition worsened. The guy was shocked by such information because the body of Liang Jianchen was completely destroyed. Finally, the protagonist noticed that Bai Fei Fei had too displeased facial expression, which made him be alert. He did not understand why she was looking at him like that, and assured that he had never spoiled himself because his body was too valuable. In the end, Bai Fei Fei decided to leave and asked Shu Van no longer staring at her. After that, Xiao Shui immediately approached the guy and thanked that he helped her so much. The employee did not even assume what she would do if the main character had not come to the rescue. The main character did not see any problem in this because he simply fulfilled his guard's duty. Xiao Shui asked the guy not to be so formal and promised to treat him to something next time. Of course, the guy was not going to give up the opportunity to go for dinner with such a beautiful girl. Hearing a compliment in her direction, Xiao Shui smiled and asked our hero not to embarrass her. The employee already had to go, so she went to the elevator, promised later to call Shu Van. When the guards went on about their business, Liu Ji asked why the general director was so cold to our hero if they were married. Shu Van only replied that his friend did not understand anything at all, and explained that he did not want to disgrace his wife in front of her employees. The guy lied that after he returned home, he would definitely feel comfortable next to Bai Fei. In fact, the guard did not even expect that the joke of Shu Van would really come true. In any case, he recommended our hero and stop there. Otherwise, he can be exposed and someone uses it against him. Shu Van sighed and regretted that Bai Fei Fei was not as sweet as Qiao Shui, so all this only complicated everything. Having finished his work, the protagonist returned to the hostel at sunset. The guy opened the door and went inside, not understanding why the light was not burning in the hall. Closing the door behind him, Shu Van looked around and asked if someone was home, but in response he heard only silence. With one light movement, he took out a lighter and set it on fire to at least see something among this impenetrable darkness. He gently went to the door of his neighbor and with light excitement asked if Yan Pan was at home. But in the end, the main character heard in response only a silence seemed to him suspicious. Shu Van considered it strange, because at such a time the girl should conduct streams and be in her room. The guy was about to leave, but suddenly he heard some muffled blow to the doors. He did not recognize what it was, so once again he asked if someone was inside the room. Our hero began to actively knock on the door and tried to shout to Yan Pan to at least somehow answer. No one answered Shu Van, but some strange muffled sounds continued outside the door. Then the guy realized that something was wrong, so he knocked out the door from his feet to check his neighbor. It turned out that the girl fell ill and was lying on the bed, and when she tried to reach the water, she dropped a glass. Trying to understand what was happening, our hero immediately ran to Yanpan, who looked completely unhealthy. He felt that her body was too hot, which caused him even more anxiety for her condition. Then Shuvan tried to ask the girl herself about her condition, but she was not able to say a word. An hour later, the main character with his sick neighbor was in the hospital. Yanpan was surprised when she woke up and saw an unfamiliar atmosphere around her. And then she turned her gaze and saw Suivan next to her bed. She took her head behind her head and asked where she was, because she did not remember at all what was happening earlier. Our hero explained that the girl was in the hospital and asked what happened, because before she had too high temperature. Yanpan said that she took a bath with cold water, but then a fever suddenly came to her. She thought that everything would be fine if she just drinks a little hot water, but only became even worse. Juvan asked why on such a cold day to take a shower with cold water, and asked why his neighbor simply did not take the medicine for the cold. The girl smiled awkwardly and embarrassed because she had no exact answers to all these questions. Our hero noted that she really does not care about herself properly, and was worried about the fact that he would have nothing to tell Father Yanpan if she was injured. The girl with a question in her eyes looked at Juvana because she heard that he would hint at her father. Juvan immediately remembered that the old man before his death later asked for his daughter in no case to find out that he was dead. He was going to say that he was fulfilling a secret mission if the girl still asks about it. Our hero decided to swear and change the subject as quickly as possible, so he asked what to say to the fans of the streamers. Yanpan calmly replied that you can just say that due to the non-payment of accounts, she was disconnected by electricity. She explained that she could use the heater, but as a result she had to take a bath only with cold water. And the girl could not buy a medicine, obviously, due to the fact that she wanted to accumulate a little money. The main character heard that streamers earn tens of thousands of dollars a month, so it was surprised that Yanpan was so poor, although it was stripped every night. In addition, the girl was the first in the ranking of popularity. Therefore, in theory, it should not have needed money. She confirmed that she really had many fans, but the problem was a little different. As it turned out, the streaming platform went bankrupt right when the girl was supposed to get at least some money from her streams for the first time. And now Yanpan could not even find a job to live at least somehow normally. Remembering that she made her way to a party only to eat, our hero was convinced that she was very difficult for her now. Although he used to be sure that the girl lived well. The guy got up from his place and, going to the window, promised the deceased Lao that he would definitely take care of his daughter. Thus, the girl lay in the hospital all day so that her condition would definitely improve. Yanpan left the hospital with a smile on her face because after recovery she felt great. There was no smile on the face of the protagonist because in one visit to the hospital he already spent all his savings, so now he had a completely empty wallet. The girl was very boring to stay in the hospital, so now she offered Shuvan to go somewhere and a bite. She had already dreamed of fried meat and very tasty sashim, because of which she had saliva. Unfortunately, our hero did not have money left for this at all, so he suggested Yanpan to eat just bread. The girl did not expect at all that her neighbor would be the same deplorable situation with money, so her dreams immediately crashed. Their conversation was interrupted by the telephone of Shuvan, who reported an incoming call. The guy picked up the phone and with a clear misunderstanding asked who called it to him. It turned out that it was called Jing Xiaokei, who wanted to tell his friend that he had already come to the city. The main character did not expect at all that he would return so quickly, and asked if he had already finished his investigation about Bai Fei Fei. Jing Xiaoqi invited the guy to come to his hotel to drink and discuss all important issues together. He also seemed to accidentally report that he had a whole collection of the Danish emperor to accurately lure Suvan to him. He added that this bottle of wine was already 150 years old, emphasizing its value and uniqueness. In the end, the protagonist told Yanpan that he had some business, so he asked her to return to herself. The girl was not going to just leave, because Juvan has already promised her to eat bread a couple of minutes ago. Our hero understood that the neighbor would definitely not lag behind him, and thought about what to do in such a difficult situation. Then he decided to take a friend with him and promised and treated her with dinner, because of which Yanpan's eyes lit up again. Very soon they had already arrived at the hotel, which looked most gorgeous as possible, striking with its splendor and luxury. The girl immediately called our hero the best because he chose such a beautiful place for their first date. Shuvan was surprised, not at all expecting his acquaintance to regard this as their first date, which caused him a slight confusion. Yan Pan immediately reported that she would not leave the guy if he became poor, so he will definitely be security with her. The main character instantly dismissed the girl and strictly stated that this is definitely impossible to say, emphasizing his seriousness. He recalled that the girl herself witnessed the fact that he already had a wife. Yan Pan realized that she was not interested in Shu Van, but still was not going to believe his stories about the relationship with Bai Fei Fei. She considered the hero a Beixia group as a simple guard and popped him to stop pretending to be the husband of the general director, since she obviously treated him badly. The girl asked Shu Wana not to worry about it because, unlike Bai Fei Fei, she liked him. Meanwhile, Jing Xiaoke lonely sat in a spacious hall and thought that he had not rested for a very long time. He noticed that in this city, Nantao should really return, since there is something special that attracts him. Our hero wandered with his companion with the corridors and tried to find the address that was early given to him Jing Xiaoke. When Yanpan saw the amount of appetizing food on the table, she thought that the main character was too kind to her. Jing Xiaoke greeted his comrade and immediately said that he should always defend Bai Fei Fei. Shu Van and Yan Pan were not going to listen to him and attacked the table that stood behind him. Jing Xiaoke froze in place with a bottle of wine in his hands, unable to understand what happened around him at all. Without hiding his surprise, he turned and watched as a guy and a girl eagerly attacked all the dishes on the table. The guy greeted our hero and emphasized that it seems that it was already too much, because he did not even greet his old acquaintance. Shu Van believed that this could wait because he did not eat for 2 days properly, so he offered to talk after he finishes. Meanwhile, Yan Pan turned to Jing Xiaoke like a servant and asked to pour her to drink something. In the end, the guy still could not withstand such behavior of his guests and decided to intervene in order to restore order. He angrily in his voice asked whether Sui Van and Yan Pan considered such a greeting very funny. He reminded his guests that actually the famous killer Jing Xiao and not some servant was facing them. After half an hour, our heroes still fed to the dump and now rested after such a dense dinner. Jing Xiaoku sat sadly and dreamed that someday the main character would begin to take him seriously. Meanwhile, having smoked a cigarette, Shu Van asked his comrade to come closer because he wanted to ask about something. It turned out that the main character sharply decided to ask if it was all the food. Jing Xiaoke believed that all this does not matter because everything cost him only $10,000, which was not serious money for him. Yan Pan, not believing her ears, almost fell from the chair when she heard how much they had just had a bite. The former killer once again repeated that all this cost $10,000 and could not understand what the problem was. Shu Van and Yan Pan are still more shocked after the amount heard, and because of this could not say a word. The main character immediately asked where his comrade was working, because he himself was poor and could only afford bread. Jing Xiaoku asked the guy to calm down and explained that he himself showed him this work. If not for the help of our hero, then he would still be somewhere in the mines in Africa and received scanty pennies. And this dinner, too, was just nothing for him. Because, to be honest, except for one floor, he took off the entire hotel completely. Now, Yan Pan understood the reason why there was no one at the Nantao Hotel today, and everything fell into place. The girl could not stop admiring this rich man, and believed that it was simply amazing. Not hiding her delight, Jing Xiaoke, gaining his guests, asked to stop talking about money because our hero said, as some poor. In the end, he finished this conversation and invited everyone to take a little walk in order to unwind and relax. In fact, the guy did not even suspect that the main character is really poor and could not even buy things for his wife. Unfortunately, all the money of Shu Van, which he earned while he was a killer, was now frozen. He went to the elevator and did not even suspect that he had met right now with the person who watched the attack on Bai Fei Fei. When they went inside, the main character decided to ask his comrade why he rented only 19 floors out of 20. Ying Xiaoke explained that from the very beginning he wanted to rent the entire hotel, but they wanted one floor to stay. At that moment, Sui Van still felt that there was something wrong with the man who was traveling with them in the elevator. He noticed that there was a sign of suit on his hand, and his comrade continued to tell that some important person who could discuss the business lives in the hotel. When all our heroes came out on the 19th floor, they saw something that was pretty surprised at them. It turns out that some guards met them there, but this floor belonged to Jing Xiaoke, so he could not understand why these people were here. Employees blocked the path of our company and said that they should not be here, so they should leave right now. The boss immediately gave the ramp to his subordinate, because he dared to talk like that with such an important person. It turned out that it was Lun Wai whom the main character used to intimidate. so he ordered the guard to immediately apologize to him. The bodyguard took off his glasses and with a slight curiosity asked if his brother Shu recognized his. He emphasized that these guys were not bad, and asked to forgive them. But Shu Van was already too dissatisfied with the situation that had just developed. Only a few seconds later, the main character performed that it was in the Moon Yu, the bodyguard Lin Xiao, whom he met before. The guy recalled that the bodyguard was wetted that night due to fright, and he noticed that our hero had too good memory. In the end, the guard ordered all his subordinates now to call this guy Brother Shu and treat him with respect. The main character did not expect at all that everyone would immediately obey the order of his boss and greet him with maximum respect. The guy decided to simply not pay attention to it and asked the Moonet why they stood here and guarded some kind of door. The bodyguard said without any problems that behind this door his boss Lin Xiao discussed some important matters. Shu Van immediately guessed that Lin Xiao was once again discussing some kind of illegal business. Lunet Yush laughed and noticed that the main character really knew how to joke well, but was not going to talk about his boss. Suddenly, everyone heard all the cries and requests for this person to let this person, which causes them anxiety. Zhu Van and Jing Xiaoke immediately strained and now wanted to know what was happening inside to understand how to proceed. They tried to go, but the guards immediately blocked their way, preventing them from moving on. Lun was clearly nervous, but still was not going to let the main character go inside, fulfilling the order from his boss. The guy used the murder again and offered the guards to just get out of the road since they behaved so politely before that. Lun instantly remembered the terrible sensations that he felt that evening and froze in place. The bodyguard did not want to repeat that situation, so she immediately ordered her subordinates to leave the road. Our hero noted that the guards made an absolutely correct choice and, without wasting time, went forward. Employees immediately asked their boss how they could explain their act. Moreover, the guards simply could not allow strangers to go inside. Moon was too scared and explained to his subordinates that now they could not think about it, because their life was much more important. He emphasized that everyone does not even understand that Shu Van was the most terrible person whom he had ever met, because he would never forget this oppressive aura. It turned out that there was also manager Liang, who for something called Hire Chao Shui, who ruined him all the reputation of the corporations. The girl was very nervous and said that the general director of Bai was already waiting for her, so she could not linger here for a long time. Liang Zhenchen was not going to release his employees so simply, and was not at all afraid that she was supported by Bai Fei. Looking directly into the eyes of a defenseless girl, he began to threaten her again and believed that even with such support she was vulnerable. Chao Wei understood that the manager still wanted to achieve his own, and promised to scream if he continues to behave like that. The man, without hiding his dirty intentions, laughed with the employee was so naive. He repeated that even if she screams, no one will come here, because some psycho rented all the other floors of this hotel. The manager was sure that there was not a single person here, so he suggested that Chao Shui shout if she wanted it so. Lin Xiao warned that they did not have much time because before Brother Bin had made a lot of effort. So you need to make plans right now. Then, without hiding his intentions, Liang Zhenchen listened to his friend and reached for the girl to finally teach her. At that moment, the protagonist burst into the room with his friends and ordered to let Chao Shui go right now. One of the guys who also started all this continued to calmly sit in his place and watch the situation. Chao Shui immediately found out that it was her savior, and again began to beg him for help. Liang Zhenchen was dissatisfied with the fact that he was interrupted again, and could not understand that this guy had forgotten here, but not particularly upset, because he just wanted to take revenge on him. Jing Xiaoke gently moved his acquaintance and asked permission to independently solve this situation. The manager was not familiar with this guy, so I thought that he just wanted to die if he climbs to them. Then the guy decided to tell that he was the psycho that everyone was talking about here, the one who removed all 19 floors. Liang Zhenchen was surprised and immediately fell silent, because he understood that a rather influential person was facing them. The guy, who still continued to sit on the couch, decided to intervene in the situation not to be nervous, because misunderstandings sometimes occur. He understood that all those present were impolite here, and suggested Jing Xiaoke to become friends, since they were all gathered here. In fact, the guy was only scared from this that Jing Xiaoke rented the entire hotel, because it meant that he had certain ties. He would like to find out more information about this client before making his next move. Our heroes continued to be silent, and he smiled and tried to soften the tense atmosphere, which was now reigning in this room. In the end, he realized that he had forgotten to introduce himself, and, having called Xin Wenbin, explained that he had a small rehearsal in the city of Nantao, Yan Pan had heard about him before, so quickly whispered the information to the main character in the ear. It turns out that Sin Wenbin is a major figure in the criminal world and was a cunning and cruel person. Those who crossed his path disappeared, and after that, their bodies appeared in an underground sewer. Liang Yanchen began to poke his finger at the guy and thought that he was silent because Sin Wenbin was frightened. The guy could not tolerate such an attitude to himself, so he already accelerated to hit an too daring manager who did not stop talking about his friend. Since in the past, Jing Xiaoko was a professional mercenary, he was able to knock out almost all the teeth of Liang Jianchen with just one blow. Now the manager was just lying on the floor surrounded by his teeth and choked in his own blood, which looked pretty sorry. Sin Wenbin and Lin Xiao were shocked when they saw what they had done with their friend in just a few seconds. Meanwhile, our hero noted that his friend restrained himself, as if there was no one here. Xu Van could not understand what Liang Jiancheng thought about, because even if he had 10 lives, he would still not have been able to cope with such. Sin Wenbin believed that to beat people only because he said something wrong was exactly the wrong decision. Then the protagonist asked if the guy would say nothing if someone insulted him, and he was sure that he certainly would not stay away. He once again asked if the guy agreed with him, but in any case he was sure that he was right, and this gave him confidence. Sin Wenbin perfectly understood that our hero is absolutely right and could not answer it. In the end, Xu Van remembered that Xiao Shui was still here, and decided to find out what happened here. He called the frightened girl to her, so that she independently explained what they wanted to do with her. The employee said that the general director and she was here to discuss important matters, but she did not expect to meet Liang Jiangchan here at all. And it was after she left Bai Fei Fei, they all dragged the girl here by force. The protagonist, in a wary in his voice, asked if Bai Fei Fei was also in this hotel. Xiaoxue did not expect that the guy allows himself to call the general director simply by name. She said that the general director was now at a meeting on the 17th floor, but it was secret. Xu Van immediately guessed that on the 17th floor there was one that Jing Xiaoke could not be removed. The guy immediately confirmed that the manager himself told him that he could not remove this floor. He remembered that the man told him about the fact that some important came there, and now tied it up with the fact that it was a boss of his friend. The main characters tightly grabbed his comrade by the shoulder and said that he needed to ask him about something. Jing Xiaoqi immediately noticed that the guy was very angry when he heard that his wife was here too. It turns out that Xu Van wanted to ask the results of the investigation of his friend, because this information could come in handy right now. The former killer laughed with the fact that our hero is so worried about his wife and looks like a real hero now. He patted Xu Van on the shoulders and asked not to worry about it, promising that he would tell you about everything after they finished.